Just look at her. My daughter-in-law laughed loudly enough for half the dining room to hear. She's just a broke old widow who comes here pretending she belongs. The table beside her went silent. Even the waitress stopped writing. I was standing 6 feet away, holding a tray of fresh bread I'd carried out myself. For a brief moment no one moved. Then I set the basket gently on the service station. I smiled. "If you're finished," I said calmly, "I'd like everyone to enjoy dinner while it's still hot." Claire blinked. She'd expected outrage, embarrassment, maybe tears. Instead she got good manners. My son Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom." She didn't mean. I heard exactly what she meant. My voice stayed level. "I hope you both enjoy your meal." I turned toward the kitchen without another word. Behind me, conversation slowly resumed. Someone laughed nervously. Silverware clinked against plates. The restaurant kept moving exactly as it always had. Because restaurants don't stop serving dinner simply because one family forgets how to behave. My name is Evelyn Harper. I'm 71 years old. I have silver hair that I wear in a neat braid during work because loose hair has no place in a professional kitchen. I'm 5'5" with hands permanently marked by decades of hot pans, bread dough, and long mornings before sunrise. People often assume I work in restaurants because I have to. The truth is much simpler. I work because I love feeding people. My late husband, Samuel, and I opened Harper's Table 34 years ago. Back then it had 14 tables, mismatched chairs, and one oven that worked only when someone kicked the side panel. We scrubbed floors ourselves, painted walls ourselves, cooked every meal ourselves. Samuel greeted guests. I cooked. When he passed away 9 years ago after a short illness, everyone asked if I planned to sell. I never considered it. Some businesses make money. Some become family. Harper's Table had become both. Nathan was 39, tall like his father, soft-spoken by nature. He'd inherited Samuel's patience but not always his courage. Growing up, he'd washed dishes after school and carried flour sacks twice his size. He knew exactly how much sacrifice lived inside these walls. Somewhere along the way, success had changed his perspective. Not dramatically, quietly. He became a regional sales director for a luxury hospitality company, surrounded by expensive hotels and polished executives. He started measuring success by appearances instead of effort. That wasn't entirely his fault. Claire encouraged it. She was 35, beautiful, confident, always perfectly dressed. She worked as a lifestyle influencer whose entire career revolved around creating the image of an elegant life. Her greatest strength was charisma. Her greatest weakness was believing appearances created value. To Claire, restaurants existed for photographs before they existed for families. She'd never understood why I still wore an apron. The dinner rush ended just after 9. I hung my apron on its hook, locked the office door behind me, opened the old walnut desk Samuel had bought from a closing law office almost 30 years earlier. Inside waited 6 neatly labeled folders: payroll, vendor contracts, insurance, property deeds, operating accounts, ownership. I unlocked the bottom drawer, removed the final binder. Harper Family Holdings. Inside sat every document connected to the restaurant. The land deed, building appraisal, liquor license, commercial mortgage satisfaction. 3 years earlier. Paid in full. No debt. No partners. No investors. Owner: Evelyn Harper. Only me. Nathan had never asked. Claire had never cared enough to wonder. To them, I was simply an elderly widow who liked spending time in the kitchen. I closed the binder carefully. Ownership isn't something I've ever announced. People who truly own something rarely feel the need to introduce themselves with it. The following morning, my general manager, Luis Ortega, knocked gently on my office door. Luis was 56. Calm. Methodical. Former Marine. Impossible to fluster. He'd managed Harper's Table for 11 years and treated every employee with quiet respect. "You asked for yesterday's reservation notes." "I did." He handed me the report, then hesitated. "There's something else." "What is it?" "Your son." I looked up. "What about him?" He asked Melissa in accounting for last quarter's revenue numbers. I frowned. "Why?" He said Claire thought the restaurant should modernize. Did Melissa give him anything? No. Good. Luis shifted his weight. He also asked whether we'd consider bringing in outside investors. I wrote one sentence on a yellow legal pad. Why now? Questions first. Assumptions later. After Luis left, I reviewed the restaurant's financial dashboard. Weekly revenue, food costs, labor percentage, wine inventory, maintenance reserve. Everything healthy, everything stable. Then I opened the merchant account statements. One entry caught my eye immediately, not because it was large, because it was unusual. A catering deposit, $40,000. Scheduled for next month. Corporate client. Paid in full. I smiled. Samuel used to say opportunity always arrives quietly. So does trouble. Just then my office phone rang. Luis answered from the front desk. Evelyn. Yes. You should probably come to the dining room. Why? He paused. Your son and Claire are back. They're asking the staff. Who actually owns the restaurant? I closed the ledger, locked the office, and walked toward the dining room. Nathan was standing beside the hostess stand when I stepped into the dining room. Claire wasn't looking at the menu. She was looking behind the reception desk, at the framed photographs, the awards, the newspaper articles, the old black and white picture of Samuel and me on opening day. Luis met my eyes from across the room. He gave the smallest shake of his head. He already knew something wasn't right. Nathan spotted me first. There you are. I've been here all morning. Claire folded her arms. We've been asking a simple question. I heard. So answer it. I smiled politely. What would you like to know? She glanced around as though addressing an audience. Who actually owns this restaurant? I looked directly at her. I do. She laughed. No. Yes. You work here. I do. You own it. I do. Nathan shifted uneasily. Mom. Claire interrupted him. Then why are you carrying bread baskets and cleaning tables? Because customers deserve clean tables. She stared at me. I don't understand you. I know. A young waiter passed carrying a tray of iced tea. I stepped aside so he could continue. Business always came before arguments. Claire watched the exchange. You could hire people for all that. I already have. Then why are you still doing it yourself? I looked around the dining room. A family celebrating a birthday. An elderly couple sharing soup. 2 construction workers finishing lunch. This restaurant exists because people trusted us. I don't believe owners should disappear once the business succeeds. Claire rolled her eyes. That's such an old-fashioned way to think. Perhaps. It works. Nathan finally spoke. We actually came because we wanted to discuss an opportunity. I imagined as much. I led them into my office. The same office Samuel had used for decades. The same walnut desk. The same filing cabinet. Nothing extravagant. Everything earned. Claire sat without waiting to be invited. Nathan remained standing. She opened a leather portfolio. I've prepared a proposal. I nodded. Go ahead. Harper's table has potential. I'm glad you think so. But it's outdated. In what way? The branding. The interior. The marketing. She slid several glossy renderings across my desk. Gone were the warm oak walls. Gone were the family photographs. Gone were the handwritten chalkboard specials. Everything had become gray marble. Gold fixtures. Designer lighting. A restaurant that looked expensive. And completely forgettable. Our consultant's estimate revenue could double. I looked through every page carefully. Then I asked, how much? Claire smiled. The renovation would cost about $2.8 million. Nathan added quietly, we've already spoken with investors. Interesting. Not contractors. Not architects. Investors. I made no comment. Instead I asked, what percentage would they receive? Claire answered immediately. 49%. I looked up. So I'd invest my building. My business. My reputation. And nearly half the company would belong to strangers. They're strategic partners. They're investors. It's the same thing. No. It isn't. Claire leaned forward. Evelyn, restaurants today are about experience. They always have been. No. I mean luxury. I smiled. My customers return because they remember birthdays. They remember anniversaries. They remember how Samuel used to greet them by name. You can't renovate memories. She sighed dramatically. This is exactly why independent restaurants fail. We haven't. You will. Nathan looked uncomfortable. Claire. No. She kept her eyes on me. Someone has to tell the truth. I folded my hands. Then let's do that. She nodded. This place has reached its limit. I opened the financial report lying beside me. Last year we increased revenue by 12%. She blinked. Our catering division grew 28%. Nathan looked surprised. The commercial mortgage has been paid in full. Claire's expression changed. The reserve account covers 18 months of operating expenses. She frowned. Employee turnover is under 6%. Silence. I closed the report. So, which part is failing? Neither of them answered. A soft knock interrupted us. Louis stepped inside carrying a folder. Sorry to interrupt. What is it? The corporate catering contract. Already. It just arrived. I opened the folder. $40,000 deposit. Final contract. Signed. 3-year agreement. Claire glanced toward it. Who's the client? I answered without hesitation. Stanton Medical Group. Her eyes widened. They're huge. They are. They chose this restaurant? Yes. Why? I smiled. They said they wanted a place where people remember your name. Nathan looked down at the glossy renovation proposal. For the first time, he seemed to realize that success couldn't always be measured by polished marble and designer chairs. But Claire wasn't finished. She leaned back. If you're refusing investors, then maybe it's time to think about retirement. I looked at her. I'm 71. Exactly. You've had a good run. Nathan whispered. Claire. She ignored him. You can't honestly expect to run this place forever. I don't. So when do we take over? There it was. Not renovation. Not modernization. Not branding. Ownership. I met her eyes. Who said you're taking over? The room fell completely silent. Nathan slowly turned toward his wife. Claire answered without hesitation. Well, we're family. I smiled politely. That isn't an answer. She folded her arms. It should be. Before I could respond, Luis's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then looked at me. Evelyn, the attorney is here. I frowned. I wasn't expecting him until next week.
Luis nodded slowly.
He says, it's about your estate plan. Claire's head snapped toward me, and the excitement that flashed across her face told me she had suddenly become interested in something far more valuable than a restaurant renovation. The excitement lasted only a heartbeat, but I saw it. Claire's eyes didn't move toward me. They moved toward the leather folder Luis carried. Estate plan. Inheritance. Those 2 words can reveal more about a person's priorities than an hour of conversation. I stood. Please send Mr. Bennett in. Luis nodded and stepped outside. Nathan looked confused. You have an appointment? I do. You never mentioned it. You never asked. Claire crossed one leg over the other and forced a casual smile. Oh, don't mind us. I won't. We can leave if this is private. It is. She waited, apparently expecting me to ask them to stay. I didn't. Instead, I walked to the office door and held it open. My attorney handles confidential matters. Nathan immediately stood. Come on, Claire. She didn't move. But we're family. I smiled politely. Exactly. Which is why family should respect boundaries. After a moment, she rose from her chair. As they reached the doorway, Mr. Harold Bennett walked in. 73. Gray suit. Leather briefcase. He'd represented Samuel and me for almost 40 years. The moment he saw Nathan, he smiled warmly. Good afternoon. Nathan shook his hand. Nice to see you. Claire extended hers too. Claire Harper. Harold nodded politely. Good afternoon. Nothing more. No conversation. No unnecessary warmth. She noticed. Once the door closed, Harold placed 2 thick folders on my desk. I've prepared everything. Good. We'll review the trust first. He opened the first binder. Harper Family Trust. Restaurant ownership. Commercial property. Investment accounts. Life insurance distributions. Charitable foundation. Every page tabbed. Every document notarized. Harold looked at me. Any last-minute changes? 1. He uncapped his pen. I'm listening. I slid Claire's renovation proposal across the desk. I'd like to add governance requirements. He nodded immediately. For any future ownership? Yes. No beneficiary receives operational control automatically. He wrote carefully. What conditions? I answered one at a time. 5 consecutive years of profitable executive management. Independent board approval. No outside investors without unanimous trustee consent. Completion of certified restaurant management training. Harold looked up. Anything else? I thought about the dining room. About Samuel. About every employee who depended on Harper's table. Then I added one final sentence. Ownership can be inherited. Leadership cannot. Harold smiled. I'll include it. The next morning became another ledger day. I opened every operational account connected to the restaurant. Business checking. Payroll. Vendor payments. Wine inventory. Employee health insurance. Nothing emotional. Just responsibility. One by one I updated access permissions. Melissa in accounting remained an authorized signer. Luis retained operational authority. The external bookkeeping firm kept read-only access. Then I reached the executive profile. Nathan Harper. Years ago, when he'd helped during holiday rushes, I'd given him a limited corporate debit card for emergency supplier purchases. Limit: $15,000. He hadn't used it in months. I reviewed the transaction history. 1 fuel purchase. 2 office supply orders. Completely ordinary. Still, it no longer matched his role. Clicked one button. Corporate card status. Deactivated. Next. Digital banking access. Nathan still had view-only access to weekly sales reports. He didn't need it. Access removed. Storage room master key. Issued 11 years earlier. Returned? No record. I wrote a note. Replace rear storage lock. Not because I suspected Nathan. Because good governance never depends on assumptions. By lunchtime, every unnecessary administrative connection had been quietly removed. No announcements. No accusations. Just clean records. That's how responsible businesses survive family conflict. 3 that afternoon, Luis knocked. You have visitors. Nathan and Claire? Yes. And they don't look happy. I imagined they wouldn't. I invited them into the office. Nathan spoke first. My corporate card stopped working. Yes. I couldn't pay a supplier. I already paid the supplier. He frowned. So, I closed the account. Claire's expression hardened. You didn't even tell us. I just did. Nathan looked genuinely hurt. You don't trust me? I trust the system. What does that mean? It means no one should have access they don't need. Claire laughed sharply. This is because of yesterday. No. It's because I reviewed permissions. She folded her arms. You keep treating us like employees. I answered calmly. You aren't employees. We're family. I know. So stop acting like we're strangers. I'm acting like the owner. Claire reached into her designer handbag and placed a glossy brochure on my desk. The logo belonged to a national restaurant group. They're interested. In what? Buying Harper's table. Nathan turned toward her. What? She looked surprised. I wanted to show her the offer. You never told me. I was waiting. I opened the proposal. Acquisition value: $9.8 million. Condition 1. Existing owner retires immediately. Condition 2. Restaurant rebranded within 90 days. Condition 3. Current management contracts terminated. I closed the folder. So, Claire smiled confidently. You'd never have to work another day. I looked toward the kitchen through my office window. Luis was helping a teenage dishwasher learn how to carry trays safely. One of our waitresses was kneeling beside an elderly customer adjusting a wheelchair. Nobody knew they were discussing millions of dollars in the office. They were simply taking care of people. I looked back at Claire. You've misunderstood something. What? I never built this restaurant. So I could sell it. She leaned forward. What if we accepted the offer for you? Before Nathan could react, she said the sentence that changed everything. You've had your life. Now it's our turn to spend what you've built. The office became perfectly still. Even Nathan looked stunned. I didn't answer immediately, because once certain words are spoken, they explain every conversation that came before. I folded the acquisition proposal, placed it back on the desk, and quietly reached for the trust documents. There was one clause I had never expected to use. Until now. I rested my hand on the trust binder for a moment before opening it. Nathan watched me. Claire watched the binder. There was a difference. My son wanted answers. His wife wanted assets. Harold Bennett quietly adjusted his glasses. Evelyn. I nodded. I think it's time. He opened the binder to a page marked with a blue tab. The title read, Successor Trustee and Ownership Conditions. Claire leaned forward. I didn't realize everything had already been planned. It has. For years. She smiled. Well, that certainly makes things easier. No. It makes things clearer. Harold cleared his throat. The Harper Family Trust was amended 3 years ago. Nathan looked surprised. 3 years? Yes. You never mentioned it. It wasn't necessary. Claire folded her arms. So who inherits the restaurant? Harold looked at me before answering. Would you like me to read the clause? Please. His voice remained steady. In the event of Evelyn Harper's retirement, incapacity, or death, ownership of Harper's Table shall transfer only to a beneficiary who satisfies all governance requirements established by the grantor. Nathan frowned. What requirements? Harold continued. The beneficiary must complete 5 consecutive years managing restaurant operations. No outside investment may be accepted without unanimous trustee approval. The property itself may never be sold without approval from both trustees. Claire interrupted. Fine. So Nathan qualifies. Harold looked down again. No. The office became silent. Nathan blinked. What? He has never served as general manager. He has not completed operational certification. He has not met the 5-year management requirement. Claire's voice sharpened. So who has? Harold calmly turned another page. Current successor operator. Luis Ortega. Claire laughed. Then stopped. You can't be serious. I am. Nathan looked at me. Luis. I nodded. He isn't the owner. No. He is the operating trustee. Harold explained. The restaurant remains in the Harper Family Trust. Ownership stays with the family. But day-to-day operational authority transfers to Mr. Ortega until a family beneficiary qualifies. Nathan slowly sat back. You planned all this? I planned for the restaurant to survive. Claire's expression hardened. So you'd rather leave your life's work to an employee than your own son? I answered quietly. I'd rather leave it to someone prepared. Claire stood abruptly. This is unbelievable. No. It's responsible. We're your family. I know. You owe Nathan this restaurant. I looked directly at her. I owe him love. I do not owe him ownership. Nathan lowered his eyes. He hadn't said a word. Not because he agreed with Claire. Because, for the first time, I believed he was beginning to understand why I'd made those decisions. Claire reached into her purse and produced another folder. I wasn't going to show you this today. But now I will. She placed several printed emails on my desk. Purchase inquiries. Real estate valuations. Restaurant redevelopment estimates. At the bottom sat an architectural rendering. Harper's Table wasn't renovated. It was demolished. A 12-story luxury condominium stood in its place. She smiled confidently. The land is worth far more than the restaurant. Nathan looked at the drawings. His face drained of color. You wanted to tear it down? Claire answered as though it were obvious. It's just a building. I spoke before Nathan could. No. It's 34 years of birthdays, first dates, marriage proposals, retirement dinners, memorial lunches after funerals. It's where people celebrated becoming parents. It's where they came after losing them. You see land. I see lives. Claire shook her head. Sentiment doesn't increase property value. It increases purpose. Nathan finally spoke. You planned this without telling me? Claire hesitated. I wanted it to be a surprise. A surprise. He held up the architectural drawing. You wanted to bulldoze Dad's restaurant. It would make us financially secure. Nathan laughed once. Not because anything was funny. Because he just realized the future she'd imagined never included preserving his father's legacy. It was never about helping Mom. Claire didn't answer. It was about the land. Silence. Then she quietly said, the land is the opportunity. Nathan slowly looked at me. I'm sorry. Those two words carried more weight than every conversation we'd had that week. Not because they erased the past. Because they were finally honest. Harold closed the trust binder. I believe everything is now clear. Claire grabbed the redevelopment plans and shoved them back into her folder. This isn't over. I met her eyes. No. It is. She pointed toward the dining room. You'll regret choosing strangers over family. I stood. I didn't. I chose character. She walked out without another word. The office door closed behind her. Nathan remained where he was. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Finally he asked, when did I stop seeing what this place meant? I smiled sadly. Not all at once. Success has a quiet way of changing people's priorities. He nodded slowly. I'd like to earn my place. I know. You won't make it easy. No. Because easy things are rarely valued. He smiled for the first time in days. I'll start tomorrow. I shook my head. You'll start tonight. I handed him an apron. Table 12 needs clearing. He looked down at it, then slipped it on without another word. Through the office window, I watched my son carry plates back to the kitchen just as he had when he was 16 years old. Not as the future owner. Not as the boss. Simply as someone learning again that respect is never inherited. It is earned one quiet act at a time. If this story leaves you with one thought, let it be this. Love your family generously, but never confuse love with entitlement. The people who value your life's work will protect it, not rush to profit from it. And sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't property at all. It's the chance to prove you're worthy of receiving it. Tell me, if you were in my place, would you have changed the trust? Or given your family another chance?